right? And all the kind of actions that we take is based on how we perceive things and based on how we relate to, things that are around us. So we have our assumptions, we have a lot of emotions, there is a worldview, our opinions, our beliefs, and other paradigms. Those are the ones that are influencing our behavior. And in latest research, it shows that if your brain is actually driving all that behavior, and how we are making meanings and solving problems out of it really matters, right? So with that, I'm going to get started. We're going to cover these four things. One is identify what is threat. What do we really mean when we say threat, right? And I'll also introduce you to a collaboration model, a brain-based model, which is called the SCARF. We'll also identify different levels of threat so that you know what kind of action you can take and how good or bad it is, or how it is going to affect you. And then we'll also talk about a little bit about what kind of strategies can we use in order to manage the stress, okay, or manage. All right, this is a quick introduction about me. I'm an agility and leadership coach. I'm extremely passionate about enabling agility and product thinking in leaders and organization. I am more interested, also in creating psychologically safe spaces for people to work in. And I'm interested in enabling women for agile leadership. I love community building for underprivileged children in the space of education and sports. If somebody wants to connect with me on that and want me as a volunteer, I'm more than happy to do that. I have about 20 years of work experience in IT. I've been doing agile since 2015. I have, been an entrepreneur, a project leader, a scrum master, agile and product coach over the years, and I've guided various teams and leaders in building that agility. I have experience in hardware agility. I have experience around, coaching team members at team level, organization level, and transformation. Okay, so that's a quick introduction. With that, I wanted to put this out there and remind you about culture and how culture plays a key role in how we behave, or how people, how organizations are put together. So culture is also has come out as the top two impediments for agile transformation. Whenever you do not have a culture that enables agility, you will see that either organization fails or struggles to achieve the transformation, right? And what is culture? Culture is made up of people, and how people are behaving or working in an environment or in an organization really reflects on how successful the organization is, right? So with that context, I just want to put a question out there. What drives trust in teams and communities? What do you guys think?
The same way as the trust is important in the family and the friends, same way it is important in the working environment where we interact with the teams.
Yeah, but what is driving it? How do you know, what drives trust?
Honesty?
Yeah, being transparent, being honest, okay.
Always communicate reality, and have empathy with the person with whom you are interacting. Correct. Empathy is not sympathy.
Yeah.
Empathy is knowing the person, what he may be expecting or what is really he needs, because mostly he hesitates to tell.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Now, why doesn't what happens when there is no empathy? Why do you think, how do people behave when there is no empathy, or you don't feel that like somebody cares or listens? What happens? What happens with the people's minds?
Then they're always defensive and try to protect themselves. They may even lie, and
Yeah, so people try to avoid taking responsibility. You will see a lot of people, there is not much productivity. People just come and go, and there is no trust. And that is happening, that whole trust is not there because there is some form of fear, or there is some form of I don't care what's happening, right? So with that, I want to introduce you guys to this word called threat. When there is some amount of threat in an environment, when there is some kind of not so safe space or not so safe feeling in people's mind, that is when threat is seen. And threat can come out in multiple forms, right? So when I say threat, what do you see in an organization context? Threat can be, where in a dictionary's way of saying, if you look at the dictionary, it'll say it's an expression of intention to inflict evil with someone or harm someone or injure someone, right? How does it play out in an organization context? What kind of threats do you see in your own workspaces or organization?
That's the same, security, job security, repercussion,
right?
Revenge,
Yeah, these are really powerful, things, right? And how does it affect you? Why do you think it affects you?
Then you don't want to put yourself in the spot. Just keep quiet and carry on.
Right. What else? What do the others think?
I would say threat starts from the point when you are not knowing how your expression would be taken by colleagues or seniors.
Yeah.
And that is where the feeling of trust is essential.
Yeah.
And without that, things will not happen what you want, make it happen.
Yeah. So you have no control over the future, or you don't feel like, your job is secure, or I don't know why I should speak something, or should I not? All of those things are running in your mind, right? And those are, so, when the definition of threat is seen in a dictionary, it actually speaks about physical threat. But what we are talking about now is a social threat, right? And what does research say about this? Right? Research brings our attention to two key biological foundations. One, much of our motivation that is driving our social behavior is governed by the principle of minimizing threat and maximizing reward. It means that our brain is constantly looking to make us feel good or make us feel safe, right? By minimizing the threat and, maximizing, when I say reward, it's making you safe, making you feel good, and so on, right? And we also should understand that the social needs, like, sense of security, or it could be autonomy, it could be sense of freedom, or whatever we are looking at from a mind standpoint, are treated in the brain in much of the same way as our need for food and water. Like we need food and water, we need to feel safe at all times. And if we don't, we move into a state which is non-productive. And most organizations are not productive most of the times, because constantly there is a conversation going on in your mind of what to do, what not to do, what are the repercussions, and they don't feel safe. People don't feel safe, right? And if you...
So may I add something?
Yeah, please go ahead.
This is such an interesting topic. Absolutely. So if you look at the evolution, right from the Stone Age, that time the humans were evolving. They were always in the flight or fight mode.
Yeah.
As hunters and gatherers. So the modern workplace or modern society is no different. Only thing is that the forests are replaced with concrete jungle.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So somewhere in the deep recesses of the subconscious, that fight or flight symptoms would still be there. Only thing is that the situation has transformed.
Yeah.
So man is constantly keep safeguarding not only himself, his family or his tribe from the threats.
Yeah.
That social manifests in the current milieu as well, from modern era in the workplace.
Yeah, very nicely said, Hiren. So, so these key foundation, are, like you said, flight and fight or fight response, right? It can be also called as approach and avoid response. Do you want to approach it, or do you not want to do it? Your mind is constantly thinking, is something good for me or bad for me? Right? And this is based on, like Hiren said, based on what has helped us stay alive over the, evolution. When a tiger attacked, we wanted to save ourselves. So, and like he said, forests have been replaced with concretes, and the things that are really considered as a threat today are not really threat. It may not happen, right? But these are perceived threats. We need to understand that we are, in our mind, we are making it up as a threat, but these are perceived as threat or perceived as rewards, not really threats or rewards. But because we feel that way, And because we want to move towards the reward or move towards being safe, we always move towards that and try to avoid whatever is going to make us feel uncomfortable, right? And on top of that, your social pain and physical pain, is there a connection? What do you guys think? Is when you get hurt, is it the same as when you get physically hurt and mentally hurt? Is it the same?
Yeah, and it's related too.
Yeah.
Actually, mental hurt lasts much longer and recovery can be still longer if you really get mentally hurt. Physical hurt may be much easier to attend.
Yeah. Right. And you know, and
you rightly said, the physical scars can be removed, but what about the emotional scars that stay much longer?
Yeah, and then they'll last all your life if you don't.
All your life, yeah.
Yeah, right. So, you know, one of the things that you can also realize is we feel the same pain when we are socially attacked as we feel when you're physically attacked. Right? In the brain. If you look at this picture, it is affecting the same areas of the brain, whether it is physical pain or social pain, right? And our brains, like, you know, we just spoke about, are wired for survival. It's constantly trying to protect us from harm, and hence it is scanning for threats. So you will hear people say, or you may have even observed, that we remember the negative things more than the positive things. When something good happens, we feel good about it for a moment and forget about it in a day or two. But when something affects us mentally, negatively, it lasts forever. You know, it changes your course of life. It changes the way you choose careers. You know, let's say you went up on stage and, you know, tried to give a talk and people did not accept it and they laughed at you, or, you know, you didn't feel good about it. You come back and swear by never going up on stage again. Right? And you know, there was an interview that I was watching where one of the hosts of a podcast shared that, his name is Rich. He said, because of that one incident that happened in school where I went up there and spoke and my teacher and the students laughed at me, he was never able to go back on stage. And instead he started doing podcasts by interviewing people still in the background doing what he wanted to do. But that one incident changed his career move. Right? And the reason that happens is because the brain, you know, of any human contains approximately 100 billion neurons. Okay, it's like in a network, and each of these, in the absence of social interactions or safe social interactions, when the body generates a threat response, it activates all of those billion neurons. And during this state, creative thinking is impossible. Right? So, you know, let me give you an example. When do you you know, come up with brilliant ideas? When you're trying to solve a problem, at what kind of a mind state should you be in to come up with brilliant ideas or good ideas?
Yeah, relaxed.
Yeah, when you're relaxed. Maybe when you're in a shower, or maybe when you're on a walk, you know, suddenly you remember something and you're like, oh my God, I didn't think about it. Or maybe in your sleep. You know, Einstein used to carry marbles in his hands and, you know, used to sleep, right? Because he knew that based on some research, in between being awake and being asleep, there is a space called trance. And it seems the best ideas will come during that. And because your mind is extremely calm, and he would loosen his hands and drop the marbles in trance and suddenly awake, and whatever was there in his mind, he would write it down. You know, that's the way he used to think. And the reason I'm talking about this is, if you want to be creative, if you want to rationally think about a problem and solve it, you need to attain a state of mind that is calm. And if you are in a threat mode, you know, it is impossible for you to do that. And hence, when you're angry, when you're in a panic state, you can't take rational decisions. And you must have heard the elders saying, never take decisions when you're angry or upset. And this is the reason why. Right? And also, it takes 7 times more effort to come back to normal after you face the threat situation. Right?
There is in the biological terms, connected again with the brain and the brain's wiring, all that, there is a a small, very small pea-sized organ called amygdala.
Yes.
But the kind of effect that it has, if it goes out of control, oh man.
Yeah. And there is this, we can get into that later. I don't want to derail. I don't want to derail because, these are topics that I'm really passionate about and I get carried away. So I'll stop there and move ahead. Yeah.
So a small observation. And I think everybody knows, but I still want to reiterate. That is why we call it, if you develop habit of doing pranayam, you can calm yourself even when you are awake. And second point is, whenever you are going for any meeting where you feel it can be a little hot, agitated, before that, or even that during the meeting, just to take deep breath and exhale 1 or 2 times, and you will find the wonders. That's what I feel and I observe it also. Thank you.
Yeah, very nice, sir. There is also new research that's found out. There is another breathing technique called physiological sigh. While pranayam tells you to breathe, take a deep breath and inhale and exhale, right? Psychological sigh is 2 inhales and 1 exhale. And it says that it activates the amygdala much more stronger and makes it calmer compared to the normal breathing technique. This is something that came up later, so I don't know if it is proved, not proved, but I just read it somewhere. Yeah. Okay. So now, why is it important for us to be aware about all of
Nothing to wait for proof or not proof. Better is to try and see yourself.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah. So why is it important? Why should we be even, be aware about how all of this happens? What does it do to us and our behavior?
Yeah, because of the mind-body relationship.
So please elaborate, Mark. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So like you said, it has all this, you've gone through a trauma. So unless you go into the deep thing of healing that, you're the cause of your own misery. So it becomes hard, and it may show up in your health, it may show up in your work, you don't like your work, you don't enjoy. So, it has all the repercussions. You may even be sick, fall sick and have some external thing, which actually you're fine, but it's all coming up from your brain because you're overthinking. So this overthinking is a major impact, thinking that, if you overthink, you'll solve problem. No, you have to let go, So a lot of things are so related. Even they say cancer and all is coming out of these boiling things, the emotions that you have inside you. So you have to really heal yourself and say it's okay, what, let go. I did it myself many years ago, and Deepak Chopra's book, endless what is that, body, endless bodies, what is that? Yeah. So that really helped me. I'm saying, oh my God, it's so easy, it's okay, it happens to everybody. 85% of the people have gone through this, so don't think you're unique. Once you identify this, and then you say ageless body, timeless mind. So that was really important. It really, really helped me. And the 7 spiritual laws of success, and say, oh my God, that's the time I really, that was my enlightenment. That was many years ago. Ever since, I say, what, let it be, it's okay, move on. Sorry, you asked me to elaborate. I don't want to steal your show. Sorry.
No, that was good. So you said something very interesting, right? We sulk and we overthink post facto, right? So the reason why you need to be aware of how the brain works is you can start doing it in the moment, self-reflection in the moment, right? If you are able to check yourself or become aware that something like this is happening to you at that point, you will be able to, immediately, like Rakesh sir said, maybe take a few deep breaths, drink a glass of water and calm down. But if you let it overtake you, you will have to do the healing and all of that at a later point, which is much more difficult. Like I said, it takes 7 times more the effort, that you would normally otherwise, be able to recover from, right? So that is one of the reasons why it is important. Another reason is also, most of these things are because happening in our everyday conversations. Do you guys agree?
Yes.
Right? The way as a leader you're treating people, the way you are telling your team member, I have some feedback for you, come, let's meet. Or are you saying, let's talk about something, see what is going on. Or the way you're delivering your performance reviews, or maybe in the way you are treating someone, or maybe in the way you are addressing a team meeting or a big town hall. How are you communicating? Everything is happening in conversations. And if you don't realize what you are saying and how you are saying it, how are you going to create a safe space for people to, be themselves or be their best versions, right? Or even be just productive. So David Rock, who is the co-founder of Neuroship Leader Institute, he's also the editor for Leadership Journal, came up with this model called SCARF, which helps us collaborate and influence others in an effective manner by, giving us, there are 5 common factors that either activate a reward response or a threat response. And when you say social situations, is having those conversations, meetings, or whatever that may be in a social manner. It's not physical. Okay. And this model can be applied and tested in any situations where people collaborate in one-on-one, in groups, in workplaces, educational environments, family settings, and whatever general social events you're talking about. And that SCARF is an acronym. It stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. Okay. And what does it really mean, right? What does SCARF, what does status mean for each of us? So when I say status, I'm talking about how you see yourself, or your identity in others, right? So it's like a sense of personal worth. Where are we in relationship with other people? And if you have to consider this status, and if leaders are trying to make you feel more move towards the reward, they are mostly giving you positive feedback. Maybe they're praising you in a public forum. Maybe, they're allowing you to provide feedback to them so that you feel like, oh, I can also talk, I can raise my concerns, I can give feedback. They're delivering performance reviews, even if it's a tough communication, they're doing it in the most empathic way it's possible, right? But if they are doing it in a way that is taking you to the threat, then probably they are critiquing you. Probably they're giving you some unsolicited advice, right? So status or your sense of identity gets attacked, then you can either move to, you will move to the threat mode. This is one of the trigger elements. The second trigger elements could be a certainty. It's about a sense of, what the future holds for us. Are your leaders, giving you clear expectations? Do you know what your JD means? Do you know how you're contributing to the overall goal? Are your project schedules even realistic for you? Is there certainty? Are you constantly thinking about losing your job? Are you constantly thinking about doing well in your job? Am I going to meet expectations from my leaders or not? Right? And all of those fears will get triggered when there is lack of transparency, when there is lack of dishonesty. When there is dishonesty, and when there is something that you cannot predict, you're not certain of the future. Maybe you goofed up, you made a small mistake, but you're constantly scared because your manager said, I will see, make sure your performance review doesn't go well. Or maybe somebody said, if you continue to do this, you're going to lose your job, or something like that. If they are using words like that, then your certainty is challenged or triggered, right? And autonomy comes into the picture, considering what kind of control you have over your own life on a day-to-day basis. At home, at work, are you getting choices to make? Are people delegating things to you or directing you? Are leaders micromanaging you, constantly being authoritative with you, or empowering you? All of those will either trigger a threat response or a reward response, right? And one of the key things for me personally is relatedness. I get very triggered when I don't feel a sense of safety with others. If there was a instance where I joined a new team, and those people were not really didn't want me in their team, so they started putting me down. Every time I had an opinion, they said, you don't know anything, you keep quiet, we are in this process for the last 7 years, so you don't know anything. Things like that. I used to feel like, I'm not safe, or I used to feel like I don't belong, right? And I used to feel this constant internal competition within the team where I could not be a part of the team, and that felt really lonely and sad. And I moved into the threat response, and my because of the maturity or whatever, I was able to come out of it, but it did affect me, right? But how can you create safe spaces for your people in your teams, in your organization? Are you being friendly, or are you showing the sense of authority? I am the leader, you are Nice. Are you fostering and coming up with social programs? Is there a way to connect? Is there forums where people can meet each other and learn from each other? Mentoring programs. How are you nurturing, coaching your team members or your peers and your teams and so on? And the final one is fairness. A fairness element gets triggered when we feel there is bias, right? When somebody is getting treated better than you, when there is a different rule for someone else and there is a different rule for you. Even it gets triggered when the decisions made for you are not being transparent. There could be unequal treatment, there could be lack of communication, and so on and so forth. So as leaders, where are we taking our teams? Are we taking them towards reward response or a threat response? So what do you guys feel? Can you think of some scenarios where you have felt any of these? And where do you identify yourself as getting most affected? Which is your trigger? You can have all of them, but there will be one that is very strong.
I have a point, Rashmi, but I'm talking too much. Let's give the others a chance. 14 people. I'm sure they have experiences too.
No, Margaret, I think you should share. I think it will be related in one way or other with others' experience.
Okay, yeah. I'll be quick then. Just 1 minute. So, my work, I constantly, I'm a consultant. I do consulting work. And I see this difference every time. And you know what? Like it's sometimes it's glaring. And then I went through what Rashmi also said, the full-timers are there. They want to put you down and, they have their own team. They're very groupism sort of. If you have worked in an organization for 20 years, you think you own the organization. Come on, give me a break. But that's what they call like big banks. They are top 5 in Canada. Employees think they own the bank. Thank God for the mortgages that we pay. But you know what? So we go through that. So you should have like, right when we started in UTI, Unit Trust of India, they gave us like, what are your thing about, what? There is more to work than work itself. So you should have your own mechanism of protecting yourself. So when I go to all this, I say, you know what? It's okay. I just take it in my stride. I said, you know what? I'm coming as a consultant. I have skills to give you. I've worked in 10 organizations. I can improve your organization. But if you think that, you want to put me down, that's fine. I'm getting paid by the hour. That kind of, I keep myself happy. But there are other organizations, they're empathic. They say, okay, Margaret, you know what? When we say, they say, we love this. Then I'm ready to give. That's what you're paying me for. Yeah. You know what? So you should have your own mechanism because that's what I signed for. I never want to go full time because then you become a piece of furniture. Apologies for the others who are full time. No offense, and they don't really eat this. But for me, I have the learning mindset. So I learn in so many organizations. I want to, give more. So you know what? You should have your own product. That's what I do. I say, you know what? That's it. So sorry, I took one.
Yeah, no, that's okay. So what you're alluding to is most often what happens is what you're talking about, and we human beings are so much looking for a safe space or the reward state that we will be only productive when we are in that space. Otherwise, we'll just make reasons and try to escape. There are so many time utilization, Excel sheets that people will give you to track your time, to track your productivity. You can always, I think each of us are smart enough to, manipulate it in a way that works for us, right? And organizations should start thinking about it. How can we empower people to really, make them feel safe in every way, feel included, feel that they can spend time to learn, not just deliver, and grow themselves so that the organization can grow, right? But the SCARF model is one way of, identifying creative ways using that these are the triggers, knowing and being aware as leaders, as team members, as peers, as partners, that there are some trigger elements that can affect people, and identifying what is that trigger for the other person and seeing to it that, it does not affect them negatively, but takes them towards being safe. If I am somebody who gets affected by fairness, and then, as a leader, my leader should make sure that, there is transparency in the way he communicates how decisions are taken, because that will keep me in reward space, and that's how I will be more productive. If I'm somebody who cares for my identity, then probably the way to keep me motivated is to, appreciate me in front of a public forum where I can feel rewarded and recognized and acknowledged because I crave for it. So how can you identify that and get close to people and understand where their connections lie and what their trigger elements are becomes really important. Somebody was saying something.
No, it was just me. So do you teach SCARF?
Yeah. Yeah, SCARF is a model, is just one model as part of one of the leadership trainings that I do.
Yeah, some of my organization colleagues have done this. So are you attached to anything? You can even tell us after your thing. We don't want to.
Yeah. There is another thing that I will share at the end, which will touch upon this element in much more deeper. So there is a psychological safety training that's coming up in July. So I will talk about it at the end. Yeah. What about the other?
I want to say one sentence. It starts with the way that firstly we must give our 100% in present, whatever you do. And to this, do not brood about the past or do not feel guilty of anything which has gone wrong. You may analyze the situation to improve your present. And once you are doing your 100%, do not worry about the future.
Yeah.
Important is giving 100% to your present.
Yeah.
That's
this has been one of the things that I am working on. It's a work in progress for me to emotionally detach from the results. I'm going to do whatever I can to, at the best of my ability, to do what it takes, but I'm going to get emotionally detached from the results so that it doesn't affect me.
Detached attachment, Vedanta teaches you that. Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, what about
from my side? Again, this is a very, very interesting topic. So many things come to the mind. But one thing that comes to my mind is 7 habits.
Yeah.
And one of the habit is seek to understand first before expecting yourself to be understood.
Yeah.
So we are always in a state of mind where we think that, no, people are not understanding me. Just flip it over. So if you just flip it over and seek to understand first, I think half of your anxieties would be resolved there itself.
Absolutely. Very nice. Yeah. Any other thoughts? Okay.
Rashmi, I think the point here is, as someone said, it's a beautiful topic. I mean, then no better time than now to come into this discussion, because I've been going through this for the past. I mean, most of us have gone through our entire life. The point is how to implement it. It's I mean, I know the best is become thick-skinned. That is the best solution, but not everyone has that nature, right?
Yeah.
I would really like to understand. I mean, maybe tips from anyone. I mean, not only you, anyone, all are experienced here. Maybe pick up some experience there, a real lifetime experience where they have gone through this, and what they did, which really helped. Because see, everyone doesn't have the same nature, right? So there are certain people who are very emotional. They might react in a different way. There's certain, obviously, who are very, very strong mentally, and they might just say, okay, fine, forget it, let's move on. So maybe not now, whenever you feel it's the right time during the course, maybe you can bring up a real-time scenario, or anyone in this group who can really give us an example and how they sort of sorted this out.
Sure. Thanks for bringing up, Salim. We're going to touch upon that at the end, and the last sites will take care of that. So I will move on, because we will touch on that. But I want us to understand, we're talking about all of this because today we are not aware. Right? If we are aware and if we realize that how our brain functions or what kind of triggers, our brain comes up with, and these are the 5 triggers that happens to every single person, right? And if you're aware and if you can avoid whatever you want to do, if you can avoid all of these in your conversations or most of these in your conversations, you will see your relationships changing, whether it is at work or at home. Right. And that's why we are talking about it, so that we can build that awareness. And I strongly believe awareness, once you're aware, it gives us choices. It just puts it out in front of you as a choice, 2 or 3 things that you can do to avoid, and then you can pick. But if you're not even aware, how will you even know that there is a choice or there is a way you can work it out? Right. So that's my intent, to bring awareness about all of this so that we can customize, whatever strategies we want to the best of our ability based on what works for us. Okay. So,
Rashmi, one small point. Here it is mentioned how you see yourself and how others see you or your identity.
Yeah.
Can we also say, also try to see why others see you or about you differently?
Interesting.
Maybe it will reveal certain things.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody has a thought around that? I have one thought, but I would like to hear from the others. What do you guys think? The way you want to, the way you think you are and the way people see the way, who you are different. Why does that happen?
Because you're so full of yourself.
Perceptions are reality.
Yeah, true.
People observe your behaviors that characterize the perception people have.
Yeah.
If you have a high sense of integrity, others' perception about you and your perception about yourself will be integral in nature.
Correct. Yeah.
If you are faking it, it will be absolutely at odds with what others see you, because you cannot lie. You will give away.
Yeah.
What you are saying, if it is not integral with your body language, you will give away yourself. So you should be completely comfortable with yourself, your sense of identity, who you are.
Yeah.
Irrespective of what kind of group you belong to, or
I want to relate to the real life scenario. You are working in a team and you feel certain things about your work and it is not getting improved or corrected. And here it comes how others see you. But have you given enough effort to express what is lacking in the environment or in your understanding or in your training? Because it is you are the owner about your work and you have to put enough efforts that others see you the way you are and help you out. So you have to put a lot of effort on that. That's what I understand that.
Yeah, so I'll summarize what you said, sir. There are two things that I think of, in these situations. One is you first of all, you are not aware how you're showing up. There could be certain actions, there could be certain things that you say that you have a blind spot. You don't know that you're doing it, and that's why you show up differently. That could be one reason. The second reason is you may be saying a lot of things, but are they coming out the same in the results that you deliver? If you're promising something, are you able to show that result? And that's where the integrity comes, right? If you're saying who you are and you're showing someone else, then you will show up as someone else to the others. So I think that's the disconnect, right? If you are not having high integrity and if you're not aware, it could be either one of the reasons that you're showing up differently. And if there is a disconnect, what can you do about it once you become aware? Again, if you're not aware, you can't do anything about it. But if you know about it and you're not doing anything, you should be comfortable with how you're showing up because you're okay with it, right? At least be true to that. Yeah. So how can we reduce threats for ourselves, right? First, there are three different types of, threats. So first step is to identify these levels of threat. Level one, okay. Let's say there is a cyclone in some place and it came up in the news or somebody talk about it. So you're alert, there is a cyclone, but you're not alarmed because it's not happening to you. It's happening somewhere else. That's your first level of threat. Okay. In this space, you are effective at simple work, where you don't have to think too much. You're doing some transactional work. You have done it like a million times. Maybe you're driving. You keep on driving and driving and driving because there is nothing to worry. There is a little bit of anxiety, but everything is fine at the moment because there is no immediate danger. Okay. Now the cyclone is somewhere near your city or maybe somewhere in the area close to you. So now the threat is around you. That's the second level of threat. At this time, your heart rate is increasing. Your stress hormones have increased as you prepare to either approach it or avoid it, either run or fight. At this point, you're also becoming very hyper alert and you're alarmed, and your brain is not working as much as it should because your cognitive resources are declining, right? And at this stage, you don't feel like eating or sleeping and you want to run away before it's too late. How many times have you felt like this? Maybe during an exam, right? If you have to write an exam, if it is 2 months away, you're like, yeah, it's okay. I'm anxious, but I know I will figure it out. If tomorrow your exam is out there, then this is the second level of threat. Let's say you're sitting in a, examination center, and the paper is in your hand, right? You're in absolute panic mode because you did not prepare. Whatever you're doing is happening physically. There is no cognitive, things happening in your mind because you're not able to think at all. And when they say when you're in that high panic mode, the brain uses all of your energy from your body and your oxygen gets diminished. And that's why you'll see you'll get breathless at sometimes. You're taking shorter breaths, you're struggling, you feel like drinking water, and your physical body takes over completely. You're sweating, everything is getting out, and you feel like you have no choice, right? And if you think about the cyclone incident, the cyclone has hit your home, your roof is flying, and you're in the middle of it, you don't know what to do. Now, it is up to you whether you want to reach the level 3. If you're able to identify threat right here, proactively, because of your awareness or mindfulness that you have built for yourself, and you know that trigger is going to happen, so then you can you have some scope to manage it, right? Because it's not as crazy as it is going to be, because it's not happening to you right away, and so you're going to be able to manage it if you calm down and think. But if you let them anywhere close to this level 3 or level 2, it may be much more difficult to handle. Not that you can't, but your brain doesn't have the capacity to do it as your cognitive resources decline. Any thoughts?
Yeah, this is very, very real. So I'm just reminded of some of these very tragic incidents.
Mm-hmm.
There was this fire broke out.
Yeah.
And all the exit routes were closed. So this poor lady, she was so scared that she jumped out the window to her death.
Yeah. Yeah, because your physical body takes over.
Takes over, yeah.
Yeah.
And there, you are absolutely, there's no cognitive capacity left.
Yeah. And sometimes people go crazy. Sometimes people do weird things. Like you said, right? Jumping off the building was, if you were sane, you wouldn't do it, because your brain is to protect you. It loses all cognitive power.
Right? Sorry, I cut somewhere there. I think was it you, Mr. Rakesh? I don't
know. I wanted to give an example. You are driving, weather is good, and suddenly thunderstorm comes in a certain patch, and you are, your wipers do not work properly, and then you are really disturbed. Everything will happen in your mind, etc. So I would say maybe to the extent possible, preparedness can help you in general.
Yeah, very nicely said, Rakesh sir. So we are talking about that preparedness here. That preparedness, a part of the preparedness is being aware that these kind of things can happen. Like, in the case of the car, your wiper can go bad. So why not check it before, before you venture out on a rainy day, right? So how can you prepare yourself is, one of the things, but we'll get to the how later. But do you guys relate to this? Do you understand? Do you feel like, this is relatable and, we are on the same page?
Yeah, sure, Rashmi, because I think now exams and all, like it used to happen earlier. It depends on your maturity also, right? Like for us now, if any family member doesn't come home on time, that is panic. Like they're not answering their phone, and then, because you don't know, like, it's different for you to think rationally, but here your mind goes to the extent, oh my God, where are they? So that.
So what I'm telling you is, unless it is a physical threat, like a fire or something else, emotional threats at workplace can be managed if you become self-aware. Emotional threats won't happen all of a sudden, at work at least. if there is a health issue or something. Let's say as a leader, you are giving feedback to someone. Feedback is supposed to be the most strongest anxiety creator in workplace. Right? So how can you prepare yourself to give feedback in a way the other person feels rewarded? If not feel rewarded, not feel threatened. And as a receiver of feedback, how can you prepare yourself in a way that you can receive feedback even if it is tough? Keep yourself calm and think rationally and say, okay, maybe it is growth or development or something like that. Right? So that's, go ahead.
No, you're right. That's what it is. It's all about self-development and work effectiveness, right? Because it's going to happen all the time. It's just that how you're going to take it and live with it. Yeah.
So here are some strategies. This is not my idea. This is a culmination of a lot of strategies that I've picked up from Dr. David Rock's Brain at Work, Quiet Leadership. Then there is Andrew Huberman's, another TED Talk. From all of it, I just put it together. So first strategy is to, give attention to what is happening. Sometimes we want to move away because it's going to threaten us. Don't move away. Focus on whatever is happening. That focus itself will induce the change. And I think Rakesh sir in the beginning had spoken about, are we focusing on the past or the future? Be present, right? And what are you focusing on? Are you focusing on the negative or the positive? Giving attention to the reward state or giving attention to the situation itself can create change or induce change. And most often what happens is we always try to remove negative thoughts. Oh, I don't want to think about it. Oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, this is coming in my head. I just want to get out of that, and things like that. Don't try to remove the negative thoughts. They will not go. Your brain is wired to do that. How can you introduce new positive thoughts? How can you see opportunities in the situation that you have? Right? How can you create new positive thoughts and put it on the negative thoughts so that the negative gets suppressed and you feel more positive? Right? And like we all spoke about, how can we focus on our breathing? The reason we have to focus on the breathing are two things. One, when your brain is in extreme panic mode, the oxygen gets depleted, right? And that's why your brain can't think. So when you breathe or drink a glass of water, the oxygen is replenished. You get that oxygen back and your brain calms down. So it is scientifically proven that oxygen, is the reason for the brain to not function effectively, the lack of oxygen. Okay, so how can you get in more oxygen in your body at that time? And that happens with breathing, right? And one of the beautiful things is, if it is something that will come in the future, is to create all those trigger reward elements for yourself. How can you create a sense of certainty? Let's say there is something that's going to happen. Can you visualize all of your work and create routines in a way that makes it easy for you so that you can feel the day is being normal, right? And it becomes predictable. Break down your tasks and activities that you do, and break it into smaller chunks that you can achieve and feel rewarded every other hour or every 2 hours or something. That way you will feel like everything is normal and predictable and things are in your control. And that brings in autonomy. We only feel stressed when we feel the situation is not in our control. So identifying those elements in the situation that you can control or influence and taking action around that can make you feel less stressed and can make you feel that the situation can be managed. And that choice will give you autonomy. And if you feel that you have the choice, you feel like you are in control of the situation. And if you feel in control of the situations, then you feel like, okay, there's nothing to worry. Right? And one of the most important things that happen to us is whenever we are upset or angry or sad or frustrated, we tend to suppress our emotions. We always get our emotions wrong and we suppress it. What happens when you suppress it, it multiplies in your brain because you're overthinking all the time, and it creates that threat situation and makes it even stronger. As leaders, can you identify forums and spaces where you can bring connections or make these connections happen, where people can share their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, their experiences, so that they can build that sense of relatedness. The minute you feel I belong to a clan, I belong to a group, I belong to my family, a group of friends and so on, you will feel, okay, I can handle it. the moment you feel that I don't have anybody to fall back on, that is when you will feel like, I don't know how to handle this, and I don't know, I don't want to live, and things like that, right? So how can you create those intentional connections and network for yourself? That could be one of the strategies as a, proactive step for you. And one of the things in India we often disregard is, taking care of ourselves. We always want to do things for the others because that's in the value system. We want to take care of others. We want to sacrifice ours and give others what they need and so on, right? So how can we self-reward? And when I say self-reward, not going and shopping and buying things for yourself, those things will have no value after 2 days. How can you self-reward intrinsically? What makes you feel calm and happy and satisfied? Identify those things for yourself that you enjoy and feel good, and do that. If you achieve something, go ahead and reward yourself. If you are in a state where you feel lonely, go out and do something maybe that makes you feel good. If some people like traveling, go out and travel to a nice place. If people like feel motivated by doing something for the poor or doing charity work and volunteering, go ahead and do it. Intrinsically, you will feel good and satisfied that you did make a difference to somebody's life. And if that happens, I think, automatically you're managing and creating a space for yourself where you can stay calmer for future situations. And some of these steps are proactive. Some of these steps can happen in the moment. But for all of that, you need to be aware, what is happening to you. So you'll have to pause wherever you are, whatever is happening, take a step back and think. And unless you become calm, you will not be able to do creative thinking. And I think we spoke about that in the beginning, right? When you're in a panic state, there are 1 billion neurons actively doing things there. When you're in a calm state, it's just 10 million. Where is 10 million versus 1 billion, right? The brain activity is reduced to 10 times less. So, right? And how can we reduce stress for others? I don't know if you have the time. We have 2 minutes. So should we touch on this or not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? Definitely.
I'll just take 5 minutes so that, we can talk about this and, try and wrap it up. So how can we reduce threat for others, right? One is understand the language is extremely powerful, right? And are you aware of the impact of your words? What you say and how you say really matters. And, if there was time, I would have asked you to list a few words that can trigger a threat response, but I will give out a few words that will trigger a threat response. One, the first biggest word that triggers a threat response is why. A lot of us are saying, you should ask people, why are you doing this? And, ask teams to think creatively, so on. But when you ask why, you're actually questioning their identity or status. You could have seen, right? When you tell children to do something, they'll say, why should I do it? And that puts you on a defensive, and then say, no, you should do it because I am telling you as a parent. It comes naturally, right? So that induces, a threat response. The second word is don't. When you say somebody, don't do this, for example, give a child a glass of water and say, don't drop it. He will drop it. Because your brain is constantly saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. For example, just as an experiment, if I say, don't think of an elephant, immediately your brain has picturized the elephant in your mind. Right? And the third word is, so instead of saying don't, use do. Why don't you do this? Instead of saying don't do it, right? Or the third word is you can't do it. If you say that, then people will say, oh, fine, I won't do it. Right? So one of the things that you could do is identify those words that can activate a threat response in someone else, and make sure you put it somewhere on your desk or on your laptop or wherever as a post-it, and try not to use those, and see how you can move away from the threat response to the positive one, to a reward state. Okay. And your power of thoughts, right? If you get a chance to go back, I would like you to watch a video on ladder of inference. I'm not going to walk you through this. This is very powerful, because it talks about a lot of things, but in summary, people talk about the brain, the body, the nervous system in separate words, right? But if you actually look at it with latest research, it says the brain, body, and nervous system, all of them are orchestrating together the functions of the human body, right? And the brain is constantly looking to bring in sensations. And your nervous system's job is to just look for, external world, internal world, and bring in perceptions and merge them together and create meaning out of it. And those meanings can actually create a threat for yourself or a reward response for yourself. Based on the meanings that you create, your actions are formed. And based on the actions, your behavior is formed. Okay. So the whole thing is about what kind of information are you filtering from the observations that you see. If there is something that's happening around you, what are you picking? Are you picking positive things, negative things? What are you picking? And based on those items that you've picked, what meaning are you creating? Based on those meanings, you're coming up with assumptions and conclusions and saying, okay, this girl is like this, or this boy is like this, or this person is like this, like that. And then that conclusion is making you believe certain things, and then you're behaving in a certain manner by taking specific action. So I just ran it like, in a minute, but I want you guys to go back and watch a video, Ladder of Inference, and you will see how powerful this is. And if you just pause and identify where you are at any given point in time, are you wrong conclusions? Are you not selecting data appropriately? Or are your beliefs based on assumptions? You just identify at what ladder stage you are, and then try to take some meaningful action around it. And these are some more things to remember. I'm just going to skip it. Here is something that I want you to go back and read if you're interested in digging these deeper. Your Brain at Work by David Rock is an excellent book. I love this book. So if you guys want to, and most of the information that I shared is from this book. There's also something called a SCARF assessment on this link. In fact, I'm going to give you guys that link. Sorry, it moved out. So I'll give you in some time. Go and take your SCARF assessment. It's a free assessment. It'll tell you which is your most powerful trigger. And then you can work on it to make sure that it does not trigger you and be aware of it. Here's an article which, really talks about how you can manage your stress, and different types of articles talking about how the brain functions and how it is impacting people, and how analytics and how products are coming out based on the understanding of how people react and behave and so on. So these are some of the things. If you really like this, please share one key takeaway from the webinar today in the chat so that I can take a look at it and understand what was the outcome for me and what was the learning for you. And you can do that while I'm talking. And this is a training that I told you about. Karen Kamerling is one of the agile guides that I'm working with. She's a leadership coach and guide. She's doing a session in July, from 5th July to 9th August. It's a 1 day every week for 5 weeks. It's on psychological safety, but it is not just an overview of this session, but it is a deep dive of how to enable psychological safety in your organizations. And at the end of the workshop, there is a 60-minute time where you put an action plan for your department or organization. So if you're interested, ping me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I can give you more details around this. That's it. Thank you so much for this time. I really enjoyed being here and having this conversation with you.
Yeah, great work, Rashmi. And I'm really surprised that because I myself is Catholic, so I'm thinking, oh my God, we have a Catholic person. We hardly see them anywhere. So congratulations, great show.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I must say that you are very expressive. I really appreciate that, Margaret. It's very, very insightful observations from your side in all the sessions, Margaret. So really thank you and appreciate
that. No, I'm like I said, I'm basically, I like to express what I say. Like, I don't like to keep it in my mind. And of course I'm mindful, but when I said Rashmi Fernandez, I said, oh my God, I must, I normally come also, but all the more. Yeah.
So I've sent you the link on chat. Please feel free to click on that and take the SCARF assessment so that you can be aware what your trigger elements are and take care of it. And if anyone,
I have one request, sorry, cutting you there. If you could take a session on emotional intelligence, because this seems intersecting with very closely in multiple frontiers.
Yeah, today morning I did I was part of this ENT session, and somebody suggested me to do the next Agile Water webinar on OKRs, how to create personal OKRs. So I've got 2 things to do with you guys now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Thank you so much.
So you're welcome, Rashmi, to do another session. So many sessions, I would rather say that. Yeah, and I've already given you guys the link for this particular recording so that you can just go ahead and put it in chat what she said about your takeaways. And if you have any questions, that would also help us get your feedback and arrange the next sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice way. Please put your comments on YouTube so that, Jet Letters gets its due and I get to feel good that something is out there for me too.
So, Rashmi, whatever you were speaking, I was like feeling excited to just come on speak and share your examples or something like that, because brain is something I'm also studying on, as well as coaching is my topic near to my heart. But just put it muted. Thank you so much.